Hi there, welcome to Season Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Today we're going to look at the case of Governor Yahaya Bello, who's currently been shielded, who was shielded by Governor Ododo, the current governor of Kogi State. He shielded Yahaya Bello from being arrested and facing the EFCC in court over the 84 billion naira misappropriation prior to being a governor, I think, something like that. Anyway, so let us listen to what Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Fem Falana, said on this. I'm just giving you the picture so you have a bit of a background. Let us go straight into it. Here we go.
So the images you see there, the residence of former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello. So questions as to, yes, they said, look, no court, provided certain things are done. If there are substantial cases of allegation established, the court can proceed to do that job. But the Kogi State High Court, what happens to that? And then the role that the Kogi State governor is said to have played in all of that. So many questions as to how the commission proceeds. The commission themselves say they will arraign him when? Thursday. That is a statement that the commission put out, that he'll be arraigned.
Yeah, he should have been arraigned Thursday, which is yesterday.
Scenarios as they are unfolding. So is he resisting what? Arrest and prosecution, or is he simply complying with the court orders? What about the policemen who were there as well? So some of those roles that they played, who is to do what? Because Falana also did right, saying the IGP should be seen to take stern measures against some of those policemen because he thinks that they did something against the law. How do we proceed from all of that? Should the IGP be speaking about now, or should he have spoken before now? Will he speak on the matter? Those are some of the issues that are bothering a lot of people.
Let's have a listen to this, yes.
Morning.
So, before now, we had seen, former government officials or people who had occupied elective office try to evade arrest or, prevent themselves from being arrested. Interestingly, some of them have also come from Kogi State. I mean, we've seen scenarios whereby people just hold themselves up in their homes and they refuse to come out, and the operatives have no choice. We also saw in the case of former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, when the EFCC wanted to arrest him, they stopped at no level to get him out of the house. They went through the roof of the house, Chimlin, if you remember. But this scenario is a little different.
They couldn't go through the roof in this.
It's very interesting because in this instance, it is policemen. The policemen who have been put in charge of the, who are guarding the former governor are the ones who have now prevented EFCC officials from effecting an arrest. The only other time we've seen this sort of scenario where security agents have prevented an arrest, of a prominent or a former government official is when the EFCC tried to arrest former DSS DG. And then the DSS officials who were attached to him said, no, this is not how we're going to proceed on this matter. There was a standoff between DSS officials and the EFCC officials. In this scenario now, there are big questions as to whether policemen, because don't forget, sometimes EFCC officials are also policemen. Can one set of policemen, stand against another set of policemen and say, you cannot effect an arrest? This is not in Kogi State, this is not in Lokoja, this is in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. All of the drama we witnessed yesterday was not in Lokoja. It happened right here in Abuja, in the Federal Capital Territory. So they have big questions being asked as to what exactly transpired and, whether there was any,
for all we know, all of this could be state managed. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not there.
At some point, because the EFCC officials themselves cordoned off the streets leading up to the governor's house. But we understand that when the current governor of Kogi State came in his own vehicle, the roads were open to let him through. I guess they were just, maybe everyone was just trying to be careful yesterday. Maybe that was...
Why are the governors having homes in Abuja? Is that where they should be? Shouldn't be. How do you citizens feel when your governors who are meant to be in your state providing you with safety and security. They are having homes in Abuja. Will they be able to carry out their role effectively by being in Abuja? Or should they be on ground zero level, i.e. in their states where they were elected? It seems to me this is a major concern here that we need to probably come and look at in closer detail later on. What do you think about that? Let's watch on.
So, because if EFCC really wanted to go through, there are a number of things that would have happened yesterday, Chamberlain, but it might not have happened without casualties. And maybe that was certainly not going to be needed. But this certainly doesn't. It says a lot about our country. It says a lot about our institutions. It says a lot about, the leaders that we have. The big questions really on every front, and that's what we're here to dig this morning. All we're doing right now is giving you a background as to what transpired yesterday.
All right, so let's take you through this report. Have a look.
Benghazi Street at Wuse Zone 4 in the Federal Capital Territory was today cordoned off by armed operatives of the EFCC who laid siege as early as 9 o'clock this morning to arrest the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello.
Courtesy of Channels TV.
If you want to make a full-time income from home while
It's 9 o'clock this morning to arrest the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello. Loyalists and aides of the former governor, including police officers, are seen mounting a resistance, forcing operatives of the EFCC to mount watch a few meters away.
Does this not look lawless? This is chaos, utter chaos, and it speaks to the real lack of adherence to law. It's one law for the rich and another for the poor, and this is why we keep talking about, we're justified in going for Yoruba Nation as an aspiration, not via violent means like others have chosen to do, which we do not support. That's treason, of course. We are advocating for the people to participate in their governance, and this is one of the reasons why you need to hold them to account. Hold those you elect into office to account. Many of us obviously are not aware of our powers, and always as we do on this platform, we endeavor to let people be aware of those rights. Section 14.2a. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. Section 14.2c. The participation by the people in the government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. These are the things we need to teach to our communities, to hold all of these elected officials to account. Now the governor is trying to evade the law by getting the current governor to shield him from going to the courts. This is totally this is injustice that we mustn't allow to continue. And let's watch on. Look at that. Look at that.
Moments later, more supporters and loyalists to Yahaya Bello arrived in show of solidarity.
I thought this was in.
However,
the
former governor remains
Kogi.
locked inside his residence.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at this. So it's got a mob to come and.
Hours later, the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, arrives to the cheer of supporters.
You see, the governor, this is really terrible. So the governor Ododo is now, is siding against the people. Don't forget, the people of Kogi are the ones who are owed this 84 million naira. And Governor Ododo decides to ignore the need for the people to know what's going on. And this is why I keep talking about your participation on a regular basis. To even get any Yoruba Nation or Biafra Nation, you first need to be aware of this. Once you're able to question and hold those you elect into office to account, the game changes completely. The whole game changes. So you need to participate in the process. Because clearly the governor that is supporting somebody that's been accused of stealing 84 million naira, and is ignoring that, and instead is intervening to prevent him from facing prosecution. That shows that the governor has no regard for the people of Kogi State. Governor Ododo has no regard for the people of Kogi State. Let's listen on. See that?
Our attempts to speak with the EFCC team lead proved abortive, but some supporters of the former governor were quite assertive.
All of them should be arrested. Anybody who is supporting the governor, accused of the crime, they should all be arrested, because when they are doing this, they're preventing him from going to the courts, and they should be arrested for interfering with the normal course of justice. That's what should happen. But let's listen on.
Alleging witch hunt.
It's clear already that it is, the whole thing is politically motivated, as it is now.
You see, now they're now saying politically motivated. It wasn't. These were funds from before he was even going to be being a governor.
You can see it. Every normal human being can interpret what is happening now.
Look at that.
The former governor just paid a visit to Mr. President just a day before yesterday. And today, this attack came. It's clear.
It's not an attack. He needs to clear his name. Let's get the wording and everything of this right. This is not right. This is no attack on the governor. He needs to clear his name. If he has nothing to hide, he can go and explain to the EFCC where those 84 million pounds and naira went.
You can read it. You can read within the line.
I am not sure those guys are from EFCC, because...
Okay, so you see now. So now they are the ones. Who are you, and what right do you have to interfere with the EFCC process? This is what I keep saying. If you do not participate in your governance, you will get people like this trying to prevent the course of justice to run to prevent justice from running its course.
There is a subsisting court order. I am sure they have regard for rule of law, and I don't think they are above the law. So I have my doubt. I have my reservation. Maybe they are not from EFCC.
Wow. Look at that.
Finally, Governor Usman Ododo departs the premises after about 5 hours of the EFCC officials' wait.
Now, we don't know whether he shielded him or whether he took him away. We don't know. We don't know for certain, but...
A little while later, the EFCC officials also depart. It's been 7 hours since the operatives of the EFCC laid siege here at the premises of the former governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yahaya Bello. The EFCC operatives have now left the premises without the former governor in their custody. Meanwhile, there are several court documents that have emerged, while the High Court in Lokoja has issued a restraining order on the EFCC as it concerns arresting the former governor. A federal high court in Abuja has granted the EFCC an arrest warrant for the former governor preparatory to his arraignment.
All right, let's go to Ms. Afemi Falana this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. So apologies, we hope we sorted all of that. So go ahead and tell us, because we hear in that report, some officials, they're saying they're not sure that those who came there were from EFCC. So what's your impression of what is going on, especially from the court having written that no court can stop the prosecution of the former governor?
Well, what happened yesterday was very unfortunate. And I'm very, very confident that the matter will be properly handled in line with the provisions of the law. I think about June or July last year, there was a clash between the officials of the EFCC and the State Security Service on Awolowo Road in Ikoyi, Lagos. And the Bola Tinubu administration made it clear that such clashes will not be allowed under this administration. I think what happened yesterday, the government will have to come out very clearly and make the point abundantly clear that the rule of law has to operate in Nigeria. And once a government has fidelity to the rule of law, police officers, state security officers cannot prevent the EFCC from carrying out its statutory functions, more so when a trial court had given that body
the powers to do so,
a warrant to bring a suspect to court because a charge has been filed alleging the theft of over 80 billion naira.
80 billion.
It is in the interest of ex-governor Yahaya Bello to rush to court and defend his name.
Exactly.
But once your immunity has expired as a governor, you cannot go to a court and have it extended indefinitely.
No.
That is the position of our law. The Supreme Court has made it clear that a federal high court cannot be prevented by state high court from trying a citizen because both courts have coordinate jurisdiction. So, in other words, Mr. Yahaya Bello's lawyer cannot go to the federal high court and say, our client will not come because there is an order of the Kogi State High Court that he should not be arrested or prosecuted. No. The Supreme Court made this point in the case of ex-governor Jikalu and the EFCC. In the case of Uwazorike and the FRN, that the order of a court of coordinate jurisdiction cannot prevent a trial court from putting any citizen on trial. Once a charge has been filed in the appropriate court, you cannot say you are not going to court. Or higher security officials to prevent either the EFCC or the police or any other agency from carrying out functions, statutory function.
All right, so having said that, isn't the procedure such that, because some of those in the report, the officials of the Kogi State government were saying they are not sure if they are from EFCC because there's a court judgment. So, yes, we heard what you said, but are they not supposed to vacate that order and then proceed, or are they supposed to disregard it and proceed with the arrest and prosecution of the former governor?
You know, Chamberlain, once a court, a criminal court, has ordered the arrest of any citizen or that any citizen be brought before it, if you have any objection to that order, you have to go to that court and say why you are not going to court. But you cannot hire people to prevent the enforcement.
They should all be arrested.
A valid and subsisting order of a court in Nigeria. Because the danger is that we are, we're having a policy that permits two types of legal systems, criminal justice systems, one for the poor and one for the rich.
Indeed.
And that is against the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution.
So, I'm just looking at the pictures once more, and oftentimes we've been told that officials of the EFCC are drawn from the rank and file of the Nigeria police. Interestingly, yesterday the Nigeria police were the people involved in actually stopping the effect of this arrest. What do you think should be, what conversation should be happening in this regard?
Well, I strongly believe that the Inspector General of Police will have to take certain actions. The first is that all the police officers involved in the macabre dance yesterday will have to be recalled.
Yes, they should
and charged with obstruction of justice.
Because exactly. That was what happened Supported.
And no security officer in Nigeria has the power to frustrate the EFCC or any other lawful agency from performing its statutory functions. The Supreme Court has made the point that nobody in Nigeria, apart from the president and sitting governors, the sitting president and governors, that enjoy immunity, any other citizen cannot be shielded by the police from prosecution. That is the law.
But this is not the first time.
Otherwise, we are violating the Constitution by shielding certain suspects from going to court to defend themselves, while other citizens are being railroaded to jail via the courts. You cannot be allowed. So I will expect the Inspector General of Police to ensure that the order of the Federal High Court that Mr. Bello Yahaya be brought to the court for arraignment is carried out. Otherwise, it is going to be a dangerous precedent whereby terror suspects, armed robbery suspects, and go to court and say, I don't want to be tried. And you hire security people or thugs to prevent the EFCC or even the police from carrying out their statutory duties.
But this is not the first time we've seen this sort of injunctions being received by people who once occupied office. There's always been that famous perpetual injunction, which was obtained by former governor of Rivers State, which it's unclear if the EFCC ever obtained something to vacate that particular injunction. But that seemed to have set a precedence for what we now began to see much later by other people trying to get, court injunctions, prevent themselves from being arrested. How dangerous a precedent do you think that really set for us?
Frankly speaking, it is tantamount to judicial rascality for judges in Nigeria.
Oh, he's lost his voice. We've lost his the sound, so they'll be bringing him back. I think.
Mr. Falana, I'm afraid you're muted.
Okay, let's forward it. I think. I don't know.
Mr. Falana, if you can hear me, you're muted. Kindly unmute, please.
Yeah, he's going to. Yeah, he'll be joining. Let's listen on. They'll get him to unmute. He will unmute.
What will have to happen here?
Yeah, he's back.
From the information at my disposal, one of the NGOs, one of the civil liberty organizations, has decided to petition the National Judicial Council in respect of this matter, because we can't go on like this, whereby a court will say, the case in Kogi is a civil case. The case before the federal court in Abuja is a criminal case. And what the court is saying, what the Supreme Court is saying, is that yes, you have the right to have your fundamental rights respected. But once there is reasonable suspicion that an offense has been committed, by virtue of Section 35 of the Constitution, you can be arrested and brought to court. So I believe that this should be the last time that this embarrassing situation will be allowed in this country. The government that has ordered, this government has directed all security agencies in the country to stop this type of clash, because it is unwarranted. It is unnecessary. You are asked to protect a former governor or a sitting governor not to frustrate an agency of the government like the FCC from performing its own functions. That is the position. So that is why we must.
Yeah, the other
Nigerian lawyers, the Nigerian Bar Association, the NJC will have to rise to the occasion. Okay. So that our country will not be further exposed to ridicule. Okay. So before the Committee of Nations.
The other aspect is,
as it is the case now,
when you talk about obstruction of justice, the role that the current governor of Kogi State played, because there were images that suggested that he got in there. I mean, I think the statement from the commission too said they spirited the governor out of the premises, and as such, they frowned at any obstruction. Mr. Falana, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm asking, what do you think? I hope you can hear me, Mr. Falana. Are you still there?
Be brought to trial, okay, so that will serve as a deterrent to others who may want to frustrate the execution of the law. I mean, a sitting governor, a sitting president in Nigeria can be investigated. And that is the decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Fawaimi and the Inspector General of Police. It cannot be done because of Section 305 of the Constitution. So is that you cannot arrest and prosecute them. But the Supreme Court has said in that case that the investigation must be concluded. Either the report is sent to the House of Assembly or the National Assembly, as the case may be, or the agency will keep the report. When the man completes his term of office, then you can file a charge against him. And the Supreme Court warned in that case that certain evidence may be destroyed if investigation is not conducted. In this case, while Mr. Yahaya Bello was in office, the investigation was conducted. The investigation was conducted in this case. And as soon as he left office, by the time his immunity expired by a fluxion of time, the EFCC filed a charge. A charge had been filed. His name was then added, and the court consequently made an order that he be brought to court for arraignment. That has to be done.
So, Mr. Falana, will have to make it. Tell us then, what happens to Kogi State governor if he spirited the governor out of that premises? Is that tantamount to obstruction of justice? Since he's got immunity, what can happen to him? Can you hear me, Mr. Falana? I'm asking the role that the Kogi State governor, the current governor, is said to have played. If he spirited the former governor out of the premises, is that tantamount to obstruction of justice? And since he's got immunity, what can happen in that case?
Chamberlain, I didn't hear that.
So the role of the current governor of Kogi State, if he was the one that took the former governor out of the place while he was trying to be arrested, is that tantamount to obstruction of justice? He's got immunity. What happens to him?
Can you come again? I didn't quite hear that question.
Okay, so I'm talking about the role that the Kogi governor played. Was he obstructing justice and his immunity cannot be waived? So what happens in that area, in that regard?
As far as this matter is concerned, a charge is pending in the Federal High Court. The court has made an order that Mr. Yahaya Bello be brought to court. I am very confident that the court will insist that the suspect be arraigned in court. And if his lawyers, if Mr. Bello has any objection to that order, it is perfectly in order to approach the Federal High Court and to convince the court why it should not be tried for allegedly diverting the sum of 80 billion naira from the coffers of a poor state like Kogi. This is a very simple and straightforward matter. He ran away yesterday, but he cannot run away forever.
I'm sure. I'm not sure that the question has been answered, Mr. Falana. The question of, I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Falana. The question of whether or not, what happens to the sitting governor if indeed he was the one that took the former governor out of his residence for him to avoid the arrest by the EFCC? What happens to that particular individual?
Well, because the sitting governor currently enjoys immunity under the Constitution, not much can be done to him for now. But again, I'm taking part.
Yeah, indeed. Not much can be done to him. Immunity.
A dominant part.
Until he finishes his term.
In the obstruction of justice that occurred in Abuja yesterday. There is no statute of limitation with respect to that offense.
No statute of limitation.
The EFCC will have to conduct an investigation as regards what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And at the appropriate time,
yes,
the sitting governor, once he loses his immunity,
must
be charged.
Yeah.
But as I've said, he used certain agents who do not enjoy immunity, unfortunately for them. All the security officers involved in colluding, all the security officers that colluded with the sitting governor to prevent the EFCC from arresting a criminal suspect can be charged right away with obstruction of justice so that this ugly incident will not repeat itself.
Well, one of the challenges that one might also raise from there is the kind of communication that has gone out about this particular matter. As you said, on the one hand, it's a civil case. On the other hand, is a criminal case. And there are some of those people at the venue yesterday, at that house yesterday, saying that the EFCC was overruling or overturning a court decision when it went and besieged the house of the former governor right there. Of course, many of them knew of a subsisting order, but they didn't know the circumstances of both. And of course, whatever rhetoric is put out is what people go with. Now, in that light, what should the communication be going forward? And who should be putting this out so that people have a good understanding of the circumstances around this particular case?
Okay. What happened here was that the former governor approached the Kogi State High Court that my fundamental right to liberty should not be tampered with by the EFCC. No court, and the court in Kogi could not have said that if there is reasonable suspicion that an offense has been committed, the suspect should not be charged. Now, EFCC went to that house armed with an order of the Federal High Court, which is pending, which is subsisting, valid order. The EFCC was directed by the Federal High Court, go and bring the suspect for the purpose of his arraignment. Again, you will recall last year, when a former governor, I think Governor Okorocha, resisted arrest, the EFCC broke into the house in line with the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and took him out and arraigned him in court. I am very, very confident that in this case, once the EFCC has been directed by the Federal High Court to bring Mr. Bello to court, that order, unless it is vacated, either by the Federal High Court or the Court of Appeal, the order will have to be complied with. And I'm saying, in not less than 10 cases, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court dealt with this situation, and all the decisions are to the effect that no court can turn any citizen into an outlaw. In fact, the court is saying, how dare you to come to court and say, I don't want to be prosecuted, if there is reasonable suspicion that an offense has been committed. In this case, a charge has been filed in court alleging the criminal diversion of over 80 billion naira.
84 billion naira.
That charge is pending. And the court has said, based on this charge, and the processes attached, I am ordering you to go and bring this suspect for arraignment.
Okay. So, just a quick one.
For any high court
to
disregard the judgments of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal on this matter, it's a very serious matter that will have to be dealt with. Otherwise,
now that brings to the issue. Now, I'm sure you're aware of an upcoming Justice Sector Reform Summit towards the end of this month. In what way do you see that upcoming Justice Sector Reform Summit addressing the issues that have been raised directly?
No, you see, we cannot continue to reform the law where the standard provisions of the law are being disregarded by a section of the community, by members of the ruling class. It is not a general problem in Nigeria. And you know, this is the painful aspect of it. If a common person is involved in a crime, the police, State Security Service, EFCC, and the rest of them will pounce on the person, will pounce on him. But you see, when a big man is involved, you will write a polite letter. Please, you are invited to our office to be interviewed by so. And so what the rich people do, what do? They will take that letter to the court. Oh, that my fundamental rights to liberty is going to be infringed upon. So can you restrain the agency that has invited me? But I am saying the Supreme Court and the Courts of Appeal have described such conduct as illegal and unconstitutional, and that every suspect must be taken to the appropriate court in Nigeria. If another is made against you by a criminal court, you don't go to another court to invalidate the order because they are coordinate jurisdiction. What you do is to approach that court and say, my lord, for this reason and for that reason, the order made against me should be set aside. So we don't need any reform here.
Well, Mr. Falana,
the provisions of
this one question
Constitution are very clear.
Yeah. This one question it borders on whether or not it is going to happen. It's today that the EFCC is supposed to arraign Mr. Bello. On the one hand, do you see him appearing in court today?
Of course, he never did.
Hand,
that was yesterday.
Does not appear. Just a second. On the other hand, if he does not appear in court today, what are the consequences?
I will be completely flabbergasted if Mr. Yahaya Bello is not producing court today. The system cannot allow it. But if for any reason it's not producing court today, I am reasonably sure that the court will grant an adjournment and reiterate this order to have him produced. It's as simple as that. Nobody in Nigeria has ever successfully prevented his arraignment before the court of competent jurisdiction. And I'm talking of cases that have been decided in this area. So it's not a new area. You don't need any reform. It is to enforce the provisions of the law and the orders of the court on this matter.
Indeed.
Now, well, Mr. Falana, you spoke about something earlier about the officers of the law that were on both sides of the divide. Mark raised that question with you earlier. what should be the SOP? What should be the MO for that kind of situation? On the one hand, we have orderlies with the former governor. We have orderlies, security details with the governor. And we have security details, of course, who came to enforce a court order. What are the dynamics there? Because at the end of the day, it seems like we're just putting these guys, the security agents, at loggerheads. They are there, each one of them, to do their jobs. So what should be the MO here? For the one hand, the orderlies with the former governor, the security detail of the governor, and the security agencies who came to effect a court order?
Well, for me, I think the leadership of the EFCC must be commended for restraining its officers from employing force to carry out the order of the court. It will have been in order. There was an incident in America where a criminal suspect resisted arrest. The security agency set fire on the house. Yes. And of course, the criminal had to run out and was arrested. In Nigeria, under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, once a criminal suspect is straight to a house, security agencies, even the police and others, are empowered by law to invade the house and bring him out, take him to court. In this case, the officers that colluded with the sitting governor to prevent the arrest of Mr. Yahaya Bello, as I said earlier, have committed an offense. Mm-hmm. It is called obstruction of justice.
Yep, obstruction of justice.
Those officers are liable to be arrested and prosecuted. And that has to be done so that the security agencies in Nigeria will know that we are not operating in a banana republic. Mm-hmm. This is a country that loudly proclaims to operate under the rule of law. Mm-hmm. There's no provision for this type of rascality that occurred yesterday. Again, as I said, the EFCC deserves commendation for not engaging in a physical combat with the police officers that prevented the arrest. Otherwise, it will have been a different matter entirely.
All right, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
So, yeah, let me see. That was very, very detailed. What did you think about what you heard? A sitting governor, Governor Ododo. Let me put this picture up. He's in the middle of this picture. A sitting governor, that's the one in the middle here. He decides to intervene by obstructing the course of justice. I think perhaps to even whisk away Governor Yahaya Bello from that place, so the police and the EFCC will not get him. As you've heard from Femi Falana, his comeuppance will come at the end of his administration. EFCC should charge him for shielding somebody charged with stealing 84 billion naira. I think, is it? Yeah, billion naira. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And of course, we're still watching to see at what point Yahaya Bello is going to be, arraigned and brought to court. But our role as citizens, as ever, I state this, is very, very important. We must begin to participate in our governance. For example, the ex-governor having a place, there's nothing wrong in it. If that's something, if he was his money, if he was not the fact, if as long as we need to establish, was that place bought with government money in Abuja? And is it the normal thing that they're doing now, whereby governors of a state stays in Abuja? Shouldn't they be in Kogi? I'm just asking this question. It's worth asking that question. What are your thoughts on what you heard? Is it not time that rule of law must mean rule of law. And these are one of the reasons why when we talk about going for having a referendum clause inserted in the Constitution and devolution of powers, state police and all of that, it gives you more reason to understand why Nigeria is not working. And those things are more, it gives us more justification to go forward with them to make sure that this takes place. I wonder what your thoughts are on it. How do you see it? Do let me know what you think. You're of course watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Please subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY. Hit the notification button, and of course, give us the thumbs up. Help us reach more people. We're very grateful for your support. Please do share. Leave a comment. Let's hear from you. Like I said, it's to see the governor, a former governor, having to evade and have thugs at the door. I mean, look at that. Just looking at the whole thing is actually quite sad that you're having a former governor using thugs and all manner of illegal actions to avoid facing justice. I don't think that's right. I think that's very, very, that is totally, look at that, totally unacceptable. So, what are your thoughts on what you've heard? Let me know what you think. You're, of course, watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back later on. Thank you and bye for now.